Good morning, YouTube. It's your man George Page, coming to you live on YouTube. As you know, I'm going to do every so often. I'm going to do some Black History moments, and it's just this is something that needs to be talked about. It's rarely talked about because the thing about the law and Black people, it seemed like the system was always against us. But this man before you was considered one of the greatest lawmen ever in the history of America. And he doesn't get enough credit because, you get a guy like Wyatt Earp and Wild Bill Hickok and several other Western heroes that often get movies and books written about them. But this man, one Bass Reeves, was the first colored, back then you could call it colored or Negro deputy marshal west of the mighty Mississippi. Now, he often worked between Arkansas and the Oklahoma territories and arrested over 3,000 killers, robbers, and just bad guys of ill repute. Now, he only killed 14 men out of his time as a lawman, and even he's been shot at, he's never been hit. Now, him and Wyatt Earp are the only two lawmen known in history to have not been hit by a bullet. They've been shot at, but never been hit. Now, that's a blessing. If you're back in those days, hey, if you watch your westerns, like Matt Dillon always gets shot. He would come back. I mean, one time Matt got shot in the back, and then he still came back. But Bass Reeves never, ever occurred any serious injuries other than maybe got cut or something like that, but never got shot. But anyway, Bass Reeves some people say he's the reason behind the Lone Ranger, being that he worked solo. And if you ever known Lone Ranger, he was a old classic hero played by Clint Walker and several other actors. There was that movie a while back with Johnny Depp, and that was, but let me give you a story about Bass. Now, Bass was born July of 1838 as a slave. Now, he grew up in Crawford County, Arkansas. He was owned by a legislator by the name of William Steele Reeves. Now, Bass got his name from the big grandfather Bass Washington in 1846. William Reeves moved to Grayson County, Texas. Bass later served son of William Reeves, George R. Reeves, who was a sheriff and legislator in Texas till his death in 1882. Now, when the Civil War broke out, George R. joined the Confederate Army and took Bass with him, being a servant to the Confederate officer. Bass became a free man during a card game. He had an argument with his master, and he overpowered him, and he left him. He escaped to the Indian territories. He lived among Indians for a long time. Now, during the war, Bass lived among the native different nations, learning languages, how to hunt, how to live off the land. And by 1865, the 13th Amendment was created, and Bass became a free man. So he came back to Arkansas and married his first wife and had 11 kids. Now, in 1875, a Judge Isaac Parker hired 200 U.S. deputy marshals to clean up the Oklahoma territory. Now, back then, Oklahoma was not officially a state; it was a territory, and and it was just like there was a lot of things going on, like cutthroats, murderers, renegade Indians, and all that. So Bass was one of the few Negroes that was selected because he had a understanding of many languages. His skills, his tracking he assisted. He was assigned to Fort Smith, Arkansas, where he worked the Arkansas and Oklahoma territory. Now, for 13 years, Bass worked as a federal peace officer. He's one of the judge's favorite and most respected deputy marshals. During his time, Reeves never been wounded. Like I said before, in his duties, never been wounded. He caught 3,000 people, not just men, but also those women that were outlaws. He caught them. And like one story where he was after this guy, and the guy snuck up on him, he shot him. He thought he hit Bass. Bass fell off his horse. So the guy comes up and laughing, ha 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 ha, not knowing Bass was faking it, and he shot him. And that was pretty good. But Bass was not just not just any good. He was a great detective, a brilliant, a great marksman. I mean, I think not just a Lone Ranger. He inspired Batman to me. He was the Black Batman of the Wild West. So when Oklahoma finally became a state, Bass became a chief in a town in Oklahoma, a deputy chief. A chief till he was 68 years old. Till he retired after 2 years as being chief in that town. Now, 9 years later, Bass died from complications of kidney problems around January the 12th of 1910. And now in 92, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, into the Hall of Great Westerns, kind of Hall of Fame for Great Westerners. I mean, just like cowboys and Indians and great legends from the West, he was there in the Hall of Fame. Now, here's this story. Years ago, Bass, his oldest son, he had an older son named Benjamin Newland Reeves, and everybody called him Benny. And his son had an argument with his wife where he killed her. Well, there was a warrant out for Benny, but all the other deputy marshals didn't want to take it. So one night he was approached by a friend, a deputy marshal, and showed him that I got a warrant and it might be your interest. And he saw it was his son's Benny's name on the warrant. So, Bass didn't know what to do. So he went ahead and did what he did. He went after his own son, brought him in, and he was put on trial. His son served some time in prison, but he got out and he became a very more productive citizen. This man went after his own son. Now, I'll tell you right now, there's cops right now that if they had a family member got busted for DI, they would do all they can to protect them. But this man respected the law and justice so much, he went after his own son. I mean, it's just, let's tell you something. That what people say about black people, that's why I say that we always been part of this country. We're more American than the people who brought us here. And that's the sad part about it. And this is somebody, I think he should be revered, because this is, there's been like a couple of documentaries and even a movie. It had starred Harry Lennox. I've forgotten the movie, but it was a small little movie down there. But I think he deserves a movie. I think, right now I know that Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther, is supposed to be doing a movie about the first black samurai. But I think a good person to be for this world, either Idris Elba or maybe, I'm trying to think of somebody. Not Sam Jackson. Everybody always goes to Sam Jackson. Maybe, I'm trying to think. I think Idris probably good. Or old boy from not Malik Yoba. No, not. I'm thinking my mind's thinking Malik Yoba, but he's a little too. I think him and Idris about the same age, but I think Idris Elba would be the best choice. I mean, he will fit the. He did that movie, the Dark Tower. With Matthew McConaughey. His character was he had a 6-gun shooter. He'd be perfect for that movie. That'd be Idris' movie. Yeah. But anyway. Another thing was that his great nephew, Paul L. Bradley, became the first black man to be appointed federal administrative judge in the state of Texas in 1972. So it seemed like somebody still followed the traditions of law. And like I said before, Bass was some people believe was the blueprint for the Lone Ranger. We need to recognize men like this. We all know about what's going on in the situation with police violence and and how people of color are being treated and don't get the same rights and shakes as people of like I said, the majority might say. But this man is a sign of proof that we respect the law, but he has to respect us too. And I know he had times when people call him boy or nigga or whatever else. But you know what? In the end, he had respect. Now, there's a movie called, it's not a movie, a TV show on HBO called The Watchmen, based on the comic book, where there's a part in the movie where they were going to hang this man, and Bass come up and save the man from being hung. Now, it's on HBO. It's called The Watchmen, and it was in the first episode of the series. And there's also a part of that movie about the famous incident of Black Wall Street. I'm also going to talk about that eventually. But I'm telling you, Bass was an amazing man. I mean, he was Started off as a slave, then he was he was tracker and hunter, then U.S. deputy marshal, and then became a deputy chief. Oh, actually not deputy, a chief. And I think we always have respect for this country and the laws of it. And I think the only thing that they should respect us in return. So I think this is a good example of what, out here in the world, we have to remember that even though some people don't think we're part of this country, we always been part of this country. So I'm giving much respect to Bass Reeves and what he did and what he stands for. It's your man, George Page. Like, subscribe. Don't subscribe. I'm out.